but it is a cooperative deception that they're undertaking. They're all duplicitous in this. But thanks for sharing that, Brian. And any final words?
Well, I just want to say to people, the best way to fight what's going on is to be as happy as you can, be friendly, help other people, look after other people. And my word back to the American people is never, ever give up your guns. We don't have them anymore. We're in a prison island. America, if you've got those guns, stick with them.
The Second Amendment. Indeed. Thanks, Brian Darius. We'll see everybody next time.
Hey, honey, I'm home. I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Welcome to the Michael Rivero What Really Happened radio program.
And welcome to our show today. It is Monday, March 29th, 2021, start of a brand new week of insanity. And what we're going to do is what we normally do, which is an hour of news followed by an hour of phone calls. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble. So let's get right on into it. The big breaking news right now is over in the Suez Canal. They have finally managed to get that giant container ship, the Ever Given, and it was refloated. They're towing it along, and traffic is now resuming on the Suez Canal. I think there's a backlog of something like 500 ships waiting to get through there. And it's kind of interesting because I think somebody somewhere is probably thinking, well, in the event of war and the sea lanes of communication, how easy it would be to jam up a canal, whether it's the Suez or the Panama or whatever, with a single large container ship. So we'll see what the military planners are going to think about that. For all we know, this was a test. You know, because that whole gust of wind story turned out to be completely bogus. Now they're saying it was pilot error. And I'm sorry, having held the helm of several ships myself, I'm kind of wondering how you could be going down the middle of the canal and all of a sudden do a hard right rudder and just crash the thing in there. Plus, of course, the Suez Canal has its own pilots. You know, like most harbors and the Panama Canal, when a ship arrives there, there's a little tiny boat that comes on out with a pilot who knows every inch of that harbor or canal, and they will take the ship through. So I don't know what happened. There's something still very weird about this. Getting on over to politics, Maria Bartiromo is saying that Biden is on the telephone all the time with Barack Obama, and as far as Maria can tell, Barack Obama is actually running things from behind the scenes. So we're getting the Obama administration number 3 shoved down our throats. Over at YouTube, they have unlisted the video of his first formal press conference, which was an embarrassment, and they have deleted over 1,000 dislikes from that as well. So YouTube is still out there trying to protect the brand of the President of the United States, so forth and so on. Now, Lara Trump has joined Fox News as a contributor, and this obviously is going to increase her visibility and her profile, and speculation is she's doing this ahead of a possible North Carolina Senate run, and that will, of course, be something that happens next year. Now, Trump is out there asking if John Durham actually exists. Now, back in 2019, then Attorney General William Barr appointed John Durham as a special counsel to investigate the origins of the Russia collusion hoax. And since then, all we've heard from Durham's office are crickets. And Donald Trump is now asking whether Durham even exists or if it's an empty suite of offices. And again, somebody's pulled some very, very long strings to try and shut down that investigation into who started that whole Russia collusion lie, which is what it really deserves to be called. Over in Minneapolis, they're bracing for Derek Chauvin's trial. It got underway, and George Floyd's brother took the knee in front of the courthouse for the same length of time that Derek Chauvin knelt on the knee of George Floyd. So the demonstrations are out there already. Floyd's sister is calling for justice. Actually, I think what she wants is revenge. So the prosecution has opened its case by showing the video of Derek Chauvin with his knee on George Floyd's neck. It was played to the jury, and the prosecutor said, "Believe your eyes, it's murder." And the prosecutor basically said to Derek Chauvin, "You betrayed your badge." And so it's really off to a rocky start there, and they are expecting violence in the city. Meanwhile, Al Sharpton, before the trial really even gets underway, is out there saying, "We've got to have a conviction. We have to have a conviction here." And of course, if Derek Chauvin is found not guilty for whatever reason, we can expect Black Lives Matter and Antifa and a bunch of other violence in the streets of America. And the media will, of course, say, well, this is completely different than what happened in Washington, D.C. back on January 6th. And so we should just let them go have their fun because they're blowing off a little bit of steam like we've seen over in Portland all this time here. Over in Boulder, pardon me, at the King Super shooting case, investigators are claiming they still don't know the motive behind the shooter. They did 156 interviews. They went on for hours and hours, and they said, we have no idea. Unfortunately for them, journalists who looked at Facebook, the Facebook page of the shooter before Facebook took it down, saw the motive right there. He just hated white people. But of course, that is something that we're not supposed to see during this, all white people are bad propaganda that we are being dealt with right now. Over in Baltimore, this is interesting. Baltimore has announced they will no longer prosecute low-level crimes like prostitution, trespassing, urinating in public, and selling drugs. Now, the prostitution and the selling drugs, it kind of raised question marks there. We know that organized crime has been trying to infiltrate the government. They certainly did it a lot back during Prohibition. They're doing it again during drug prohibition. And organized crime makes a huge amount of money from prostitution and drugs. And now in Baltimore, people engaging in prostitution or selling drugs are now immune from the police. And it sounds to me like organized crime has scored a major victory there. As you're already aware, last week, Georgia passed some new laws regarding how elections are to be handled in their state. And it is a states' rights issue. And Georgia passed a bill that requires voter ID. They put serious limits on absentee voters. And of course, the liberals just went totally ballistic there, saying it's voter suppression, it's racist, it's all this other stuff here. And so corporations are being pressured to reject the Georgia Republicans' bill on voting rights here. And we've already seen a couple of them. The PGA Tour is being pressured to relocate out of Georgia. And apparently Georgia was being considered as a filming location for the next Indiana Jones movie. Yes, they're going to crank one more out of that franchise. And my response to that is, well, if you're going to make another movie about Indiana Jones, Why not make it in, I don't know, Indiana? Because we have a growing film production community here, including a recent addition of a visual effects supervisor and computer animator. Little blush there on my cheeks here. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is out there saying that attempts to stop election fraud are sick and un-American. And that's really, to my mind, that's kind of a little bit strange. I think we're supposed to have honest and fair elections, and we're not supposed to have massive fraud. But he's certainly betraying his particular point of view on the issue with comments like that. Over at the FBI, they're getting ready for a new massive TV and movie propaganda blitz to try and reconvince Americans that the FBI are a swell bunch of Joes. And at the same time, they're going to smear their political targets as well. Now, back in 1954, a law was passed at the urging of J. Edgar Hoover that made it illegal to display the FBI seal, the FBI initials, and the words Federal Bureau of Investigation in commercial popular culture without express permission from the Bureau's propaganda office. And ever since then, if you see FBI like Silence of the Lambs, that's all being put together with the permission of the Bureau. And obviously, Jodie Foster made the FBI look really, really good in that. There was a case a while back, I forget the exact date, where Disney was doing a movie that featured burglars coming out of an office building carrying a file cabinet labeled FBI, and that scene had to be cut from the script because of that law passed in 1984. So you're going to get a huge amount of propaganda about it, the FBI. You'll forgive me if I do not tune in on that one. Now, Corey Lewandowski is talking about Trump's new social media platform. He's saying it will be interactive. How could it be a social media platform without being interactive? I'm sorry, Corey. But he says it will allow users to interact without fear of being canceled. Well, by golly, sign me up for that one. Definitely want to do that one. And I understand Mike Lindell is still working on his social media platform that will also be censorship-free. Okay, we're talking about that horrible tragedy where an Uber Eats driver was killed during a carjacking in Washington, D.C. that involved two black teenage girls. And the media is trying very hard, The media is trying very hard to portray the girls as the victims. CNN is saying that it was just a horrible accident. And so that's kind of where that's all going with that right now. But D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser actually tweeted on out trying to blame the driver for not being, protecting himself in Washington, D.C. Now, you'll remember Washington, D.C. bans the ownership of handguns. So it's a little bit of a double standard, and D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser drew a tremendous amount of backlash because of that and has now deleted that tweet. Okay. Let's see. Let's get into COVID-19. It's still out there. This is coming from Europe. According to Cuzblue.com, 3,964 people have died from the adverse drug reactions for the COVID-19 vaccines. 162,610 people have suffered injuries. Now, those were severe enough to be reported. A lot of people have had adverse reactions that weren't serious enough where they didn't bother calling their doctor. That was the case when Claire and I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. She was fine. Nothing went wrong. I was kind of sick for 2 days there. CNN had a bit of an embarrassment there. There was a reporter in a restaurant full of people, and he basically hollered on out, does anybody in this restaurant think it's a good idea to take the COVID vaccine? Go ahead and raise your hands. Not one single person raised their hands. So that's CNN for you here. China is saying the people who take the Sinopharm vaccine will now need a third dose to boost its effectiveness. Starting to feel like a voodoo doll out there. Dr. Birx is claiming the COVID death toll could have been mitigated if only she were in charge, which is kind of weird because I thought she was. So we'll see what's happening with that one here. Over at Johnson & Johnson again, Johnson & Johnson and the African Union are working on a deal for up to 400 million COVID-19 shots. And there's this illustration from the local media over there that shows a vial with the coronavirus vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson logo, and a syringe. So they're still out there pushing this stuff as hard as they can. Story coming on out of, let's see, the stationgossip.com. Over in Great Britain, people over 70 will get a third dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, what's really interesting over in Great Britain is that about 60% of black people over the age of 70 have had the COVID vaccine, while the rate is 91% in white patients over the age of 70. So the black people are being very, very cautious, and they really ought to be. I cannot fault them for their concerns and their doubts, especially when you go back and you look at the history of the Tuskegee syphilis study. Biden administration is starting to work on vaccine passports. You're going to have more papers that you need to show at the checkpoints. Papers, please. Papers, please. Your driver's license, your proof of insurance, your vaccine passport. And Robert Heinlein had a comment in one of his science fiction books that said, when you need 3 or more forms of ID to get around in a society, that society is doomed. And we're about to find out just how prescient he was. Dr. Fauci is now trying to take credit for the development of the COVID vaccine. He's saying it was him and not Trump who got things going. He's not even mentioning Operation Warp Speed, which was definitely all Trump. And here's another article that gets right to the point. This is from Zero Hedge. Why is everyone in Texas not dying? Because down in Texas, they've already released all the restrictions. You don't have to wear the face masks, and you don't have to have that social distance. And they're not seeing a huge surge in COVID. Oddly enough, the surge in COVID is being seen in the states with the highest rates of vaccination. Now, you figure that one out for yourself. And the cost of all of this stuff, and I don't mean financially, but with the lockdowns, over in Japan, we were talking about how there were a lot of men committing suicide because they just couldn't deal with it anymore. Now we're hearing that suicide rates among Japanese women have risen sharply during the pandemic because they just can't go on in isolation. We're social creatures. We always have been here. Down in New Zealand, they will not open for tourism before reaching herd immunity through vaccination. So if you were thinking of visiting that recreated village from Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit village from Lord of the Rings, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer from that one. This is an interesting story. This is coming from Tethastra.com, and there is a new report out that is claiming that COVID-19 originated in bats, we've heard that one before, but that it didn't transfer directly to humans, but through another animal. So it's a 3-stage chain: bats, other animal, which is not yet named, and then human beings, they think. Maybe. Okay. Dartmouth Brown did a study that looked at the media's basically pushing the fear propaganda about COVID-19. And they're saying 87% of the U.S. stories were classified as negative, whereas 51% of the non-U.S. stories were classified as negative. So, yeah, they've been pushing the fear propaganda, scare you into obedience, scare you into those masks. And by the way, we're getting more word that those masks are really wrecking the environment. Apparently, people are just taking them off and flinging them. Wildlife are getting tangled up in them. And that's a bad, bad thing to see happening. This is an interesting article, and you might want to think about this and remember it. There was a study that was done, and this is from Investment Watch blog, and it found that 93% of people who negotiated their medical bills saw it reduced or dropped entirely. So if you ever wondered if you were being overcharged for medical care, yeah, you are. And if you go along with it, you pay the tourist rate. But if you come back and say, wait a minute, that's just a little too much, it turns out that, well, we'll give you the friend's discount, as it were. Looking at Ebola, I mean, the COVID fear has worn off. We're not afraid of COVID anymore, blah, blah, blah. So now they're wagging the Ebola at us. There are 86 people in 4 U.S. states currently under observation, but not quarantine. Now, they're still not naming the specific Ebola strain, but they're saying it does have a 50% mortality rate. So it is one of the nastier ones out there. And turning to the international, we're coming up on a commercial break. Okay, well, that'll be a good thing. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more news after these few words from our sponsors.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and a new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out thekosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus.
$500 gets you 2 Commander memberships at Front Sight. $500 for 2 Commander memberships. Give one to whomever you would like.
Wall Street wizards on the land from a mental institution claim private retirement funds. Yeah, they are the best solution. But when the markets crash, we'll be asking where's the cash. Guess them folks in D.C. must be smoking Texas hash. Will Congress pay the power?
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to talk about the international news for a while here. And U.S. intelligence agencies have warned the Biden administration that if the United States withdraws its military presence from Afghanistan under the current circumstances, the nation would be at severe risk of falling under the control of the people who actually live there. In other words, they're now warning that Afghanistan could be controlled by the Afghans. Horror. It's just total horror there. And there was an article in the New York Times titled, "Officials Try to Sway Biden Using Intelligence on Potential for Taliban Takeover of Afghanistan." Now, the Taliban were basically in charge following the withdrawal of the Soviet Union, and they were doing very well until there was that famous oil pipeline deal, where the Taliban said, we'll rent you the pipeline right of way for the going rate. And the oil company consortium said, no, we want a discount. And the Taliban said, no discounts. So they went before the United States Congress and said it's going to be cheaper, because the American people are going to pay for it, to invade Afghanistan and put in a much more oil company-friendly government, which was headed by Hamid Karzai, formerly of UNOCAL. Okay, now Biden came out with a comment recently that Crimea is Ukraine. They're starting to talk tough. They're starting to try and recycle that propaganda about how Russia annexed Crimea or they stole Crimea, which, by the way, is not what happened. And to recap for those people not following the story, following the U.S.-backed overthrow in Kiev, the people of Crimea said, well, this is no longer a government that represents us in our best interests, and they held a referendum and voted to secede from Ukraine. That passed with over 90% yes votes. Then they held a second referendum about merging with the Russian republics, and that one also passed with a landslide. So Crimea turned to Russia and said, we'd like to become a part of your club. Russia said, yeah, sure, why not? Come on board. And that's what really happened. Russia didn't steal anything. Russia didn't annex anything. All they've really done so far is they've built a nifty new bridge to reach Crimea from over on the Russian side, and the new highway system, and they're engaging in trade, which is how you keep peace going, peace through commerce. But lately we've been hearing more and more talk about starting a war to recover Crimea and give it back to the U.S.-backed government in Ukraine. And that could be the flashpoint for World War III. And I'm sure the people of Crimea are not happy about this, because they understand that war will be fought in their front yards. And they're probably not happy about that part either. Pepe Escobar is out there saying that the current U.S.-NATO versus Russia-China hybrid war it's continuing, and it could have a very, very bad outcome. And Pepe is saying the unipolar moment is 6 feet under, and the hegemon will try and break Eurasian integration, and there's no grown-up in the room to counsel restraint, except possibly Vladimir Putin, who continues to be the only adult in this global romper room. So we have over in the U.S. government, which still bills itself as the leader of the free world, and I get hives when I hear that one, that is out there talking tough with Russia and China and really just trying to kick up a new war here. Here's what's going on, okay? Folks, the United States government is nearing a Soviet Union-style collapse. And rather than look at themselves and say, we've got some serious problems, we can't run an economy properly, we have crooked elections, they're out there blaming, white nationalists, and they're blaming everybody else but themselves. It's called displacement. You blame other people for your own crimes. and they're going to start a major war because they can't think of anything better to do. So I have a proposal. When war comes, I think those members in the Congress, that grand old benevolent asylum for the aged and infirm, they should be out there on the front line. We'll give them all AR-15s. They'll tremble at that and say, oh, I can't touch that. And then we'll let them fight it out there on the front lines here. Over in Myanmar, the violence is continuing, and 114 people were killed on Saturday, including several children. The issue here is that the former government of Myanmar tried to win re-election with an obviously fraudulent election. The military stepped in and said, no, you're not going to steal our country. The U.S. is backing the former government because they were very friendly to the United States, and the U.S. is not sure about the government an honest election would actually bring in might not be as friendly to the United States. So that's why they're backing the military, and a lot of people are dying in the process. China is warning foreign firms not to engage in politics after companies raise concerns about forced labor in Xinjiang. We're going to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here's a testimonial from Amazon.com. I am only 40, but I have put my body through hell working in manufacturing for 20 years. I recently started to notice a buzzing feeling along with a stuttering sensation with my heart. I had a full cardio stress done, which I passed. I decided to try Extendivite after getting the jingle stuck in my head. Halfway through the bottle, I really did notice a difference. After getting home from work, I would just sit in a chair for a few hours feeling like crap, and this stuff reduced that feeling along with heart discomfort to almost nothing. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Forced to carry his own cross while we drive nails in his coffin. You might say it is routine. It happens far too often. A decorated soldier, veteran of the war. Who would have thought that he would be among the sick and poor?
Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about the international news now. Israel is basically trying to deal with the impending investigation by the International Criminal Court, which is investigating possible war crimes by Israel and also the United States against the people of Palestine. Now, Israel is not denying what happened to the Palestinians, but it is claiming the probe should be called off because Israel is outside ICC jurisdiction, or Palestine is not a state, and then there's the old venerable fallback. The ICC is anti-Semitic and hates Jews and wants Hitler to come back and gas the Jewish babies in the ovens again, or something like that. But they're not actually denying the charges, and even worse, they're still continuing to behave badly toward the Palestinians, and the arrogance on display is just amazing. Israel is also out there saying we can destroy Iran's nuclear program. They're talking tough here. Apparently, they're thinking about when Israel went up and destroyed Iraq's nuclear bomb program, which actually turned out never to have existed anyway. So a senior military official has declared his country has the ability to completely destroy Iran's nuclear program. This is coming from Tal Kalman, head of the Strategic Division and the Third Circle Directorate of the Israeli Army. And he says, I do not want to call it a year of transformation, but it is a year of great change. It started with the assassination of Soleimani and continued with a series of events that I cannot comment on most of the time. Meanwhile, Israel's latest election came out a multi-way tie. Nobody got a majority. So Netanyahu is desperately trying to form yet another coalition government in order to avoid a fifth election. All right, let's talk about the economic news for a while. Over in Japan, the Nomura Bank says it's facing a loss of $2 billion with a B, arising from transactions with a U.S. client as a hedge fund blow-up roils the markets. And apparently this had repercussions all over the place. Credit Suisse has announced they've got significant loss from the hedge fund default. Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley reportedly sold a massive $19 billion worth of shares in Chinese tech and U.S. media companies. It looks to me like they're trying to bolster up their cash position right now. Meanwhile, Canadian Pacific has bought the Kansas City Southern Railroad for $25 billion in the largest deal of 2021. And this is going to create a single railroad system that spans Mexico, the United States, and Canada. And so it's going to speed up the moving of cargo along that way. And again, it's another move toward the so-called North American Union. Now, we know that the economy was in terrible trouble even before the pandemic, and the pandemic has made it far, far worse. And we know that a lot of people are way behind on their rents and mortgages. The CDC declared a moratorium on evictions, which has now been extended to July, which doesn't really solve the problem. And it's turning out that people who have lost their rental home or their real home and they're living out of motels, they could find themselves being evicted as well because they are behind on the motel rents as well. It's really, really ugly out there. But hey, we've got trillions of dollars to spend on bombs and bullets and bandages and stealth bombers and various other pieces of military junk which don't really work. And by the way, I saw a story over the weekend where experts are saying that the F-35, which we have been talking about for a long time, is basically unsalvageable. They're saying that no amount of money and reverse engineering is going to correct the problems that were designed into it right from the very, very beginning, which doesn't mean the Pentagon won't try. But I mean, they're already selling this thing to other countries around the world who at some point are going to realize they bought a lemon with wings, a supersonic stealth lemon. Transportation Secretary Mayor Pete is pushing for a vehicle mileage tax. The Democrats, are looking for more things they can tax. And Mayor Pete, who's now Transportation Secretary, is pitching the idea of a vehicle mileage tax that would increase the further one travels. And hopefully this is going to wake up a lot of people, especially those who have a long commute to get to their jobs, that really it's reached the point where we're simply being taxed way too much. And again, we're looking at this stimulus payment coming on out, $1,400, which is actually going to result in something like $66,000 in future taxes down the road. Meanwhile, a story, we reported this last week, but we're going to report it again. The top 1% of the highest earning American households are dodging taxes on 1/5 of their income. They are able to conceal that income and not pay any taxes on it at all. Another story, this one coming on out of Zero Hedge. 77% of Americans are worried about soaring inflation, and we're starting to see it around here. Gasoline prices are going up. Food prices are going on up. One of the reasons that Claire and I moved here from Oahu was a lowered cost of living, but that lowered cost of living is now being erased bit by bit right in front of our eyes. Now, we're not going to go back to Oahu because I can only imagine how bad things have gotten back there as well. Meanwhile, the lockdowns, to nobody's surprise, have devastated the cruise industry, rather. Cruise ships were big business. We used to see them come in and out of Honolulu Harbor all the time. But right now, the cruise industry is waiting for Washington's go-ahead to sail again. And national politicians assigned to themselves the right to decide which industries would continue to operate as the coronavirus spread and which ones wouldn't. And the cruise industry was shut down. There were several bad scandals of COVID-19 spreading wildly inside those cruise ships. And so it's just ugly, ugly, ugly. Over at Investment Watch blog, a little bit of a cautionary tale there, saying that if Social Security were really a trust fund, which is what we're always being told that it is, there would be lawsuits everywhere. If Social Security were one of your private investments instead of an entitlement, you might actually look for other options, but you're not allowed to. You are mandated by law to pay money into a Social Security system of which you might get a small portion of it back between the time you retire and the time that you die. Over in Great Britain, Boris Johnson is going to be approaching the G7 about building their own version of the Belt and Road Global Network, because they don't want China to have all of the economic and political advantage that the Belt and Road Project is obviously going to bring to them. So Boris Johnson is going to go over to the G7 countries and say, we got to do exactly the same thing. Yes, China spent all that money and we can spend that much money as well. Because we'll just tax the people. We'll find something else to tax out there. We're going to tax balloons. We're going to tax, daffodils. We're going to, tax whatever. It's hard to imagine anything that isn't being taxed in this country, especially in those states that have a sales tax. And basically everything is being taxed at that point here. Story coming on out of Zero Hedge. New infrastructure will not come good, fast, or cheap. We know that Biden is talking about a $3 trillion with a T dollar project to clean up the nation's infrastructure. And I remember some years ago, experts saying that's what it was going to take to redo the roads, the dams, the bridges, and the rail lines. But with inflation and the added deterioration, it may not happen. And we know when this government gets involved in projects like that, they don't work out very well. Again, look at the F-35. Look at the Gerald R. Ford. Experts are saying it'll never really be capable of surviving combat. So, you know, I look at all those people who are out there complaining about the money spent on space exploration and how we should give it to the poor. I wish they would turn their attention to military waste, like the littoral combat ships, the Zumwalt destroyer, the Gerald R. Ford, the F-22, the F-35. Why aren't they complaining about all the money that is soaking up? Because it's a heck of a lot more than NASA gets. Okay, let's talk a little bit about immigration and the border. And we've talked about this before. Migration is a filtering process. The people who are doing well in their home countries, they're going to stay there. They don't have a reason to leave. The people coming across that border represent the worst of those origin countries. And so far, in this recent Biden surge of illegal immigrants coming over the border, they have caught identified 861 criminals, including 63 gang members, 92 sex offenders, and various and assorted murderers as well. Now, somebody posted a viral video of a semi-trailer just pulling over to the side of the road, opening up the rear door, in Pearsall, Texas, and just, a whole crowd of illegal immigrants just piled on out of there. So it's just shameful. It's just shameful. Now, MSNBC, one of their hosts, asked Ilhan Omar, are you as critical of Biden as you were with Trump for holding kids in cages? And the answer is no. When they had that whole kids in cages thing, which, by the way, started under Obama, not Trump, but when Trump was in office, that was one of the things they used to bludgeon him and say, oh, he's got kids in cages. Well, there's kids in cages now, even more than under Trump. And it's no big deal. And one of the reasons is the White House is running interference and the media is basically ignoring the story. But they had a little bit of a breakthrough today because Ted Cruz went down to the border and took pictures and videos of the caged children. And one of Biden's operatives working down there harassed Senator Ted Cruz, forced him to delete one of the pictures, but not all of them. I guess they didn't know, the capacity of the camera being used. Ted Cruz, of course, has gone public with that, and the core media has been forced to at least acknowledge that it did happen. Another story, this one coming out of Station Gossip. The Biden administration is waiving background checks for the caregivers at the child migrant facilities. So if you're a pedophile child molester and you're currently unemployed, boy, have we got a job opportunity for you. Getting into the world of firearms, story coming on out of Damagood. Biden is preparing to sign an executive order on gun control. Now, there is a limit to that. Executive orders apply to the executive branch. They don't apply to you. They don't apply to the citizens. They don't even apply to the Congress. They don't even apply to the Supreme Court. That's part of the separation of powers doctrine. But Biden's going to sign some kind of an executive order to demand gun control, and I think it's going to be up to the American people, in the best spirit of Marbury versus Madison, to say this is completely legal. Biden administration is urging the Supreme Court to allow peace to simply walk into a home and take guns without needing a warrant to do it. That's a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. But yeah, they're getting desperate. They're scared of you. They are very much afraid of you right now, or they wouldn't be doing this, especially the obsessive focus on assault rifles, which are not really the majority firearm used to commit crimes. It's the firearm of choice if you're staging a false flag attack to push for the gun grabber association, the gun grabber agenda, rather. But they want those weapons out of your hands because they're afraid of you. They know how close they are to reaching that point where the American people are going to say, okay, that's it. Oh, all of you in Washington, D.C., that's our city. All of you, you're fired. Get out. The House of Representatives, again bowing to Joe Biden, passed two bills last Thursday, House Resolution 8 and House Resolution 1446, that basically bring in a sweeping overhaul of how firearms are bought and sold in the U.S. Neither of them will get in the way of criminals who overwhelmingly obtain their firearms outside normal channels of lawful commerce. Again, they're not interested in disarming the criminals. They want to disarm you, the law-abiding citizen. And basically what they're going to do with these bills is transform the Second Amendment right to obtain firearms into a privilege administered at the whim of government bureaucrats. You know, their friends, I'm sure, will all get guns. Just you won't here. Now, here's an interesting little story, and this came out of Domagood.com. With Joe Biden pushing gun control, will his son Hunter be held accountable for breaking the current gun laws? Apparently, along with all of the other things Hunter has been doing, he's run afoul of the existing firearms laws and should be treated the same as any other American who runs afoul of those same laws. But it's not going to happen. I mean, let's be honest. It'll be you'll be getting frostbite in the dark regions before that's going to happen. Now, Lindsey Graham out there, he's a very pro-gun person and says that he has an AR-15 and he practices with it in case that, there is a social upheaval, and he wants to be able to protect his home with his AR-15. Needless to say, the lefties over on Twitter went ballistic. Oh, he's going to shoot those poor helpless thugs trying to break into his home. It's a horrible thing there. Yeah, that's kind of actually one of the reasons we have a Second Amendment, because it basically recognizes your right to defend your home against unfriendly invasion. Okay, oh my goodness, we're getting up to the top of the hour, and we're going to take a break and be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org. and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719, extension 3. 800-724-2719, extension 3.
Extendivite 7-herb formulation is approved to help maintain cardiovascular health and help lower blood lipid levels in adults. Extendivite is made from hawthorn, garlic, valerian, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, and milk thistle. The herbs in Extendivite have been chosen for their ability to help with overall health. Many people have reported improved energy and stamina in just a few months. If you think you could feel just a little bit better, then Extendivite may just be for you. Extendivite is an all-natural supplement. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite. We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women and children alike.
Welcome back to our show here now from the world of wokeness, which I think really means trying to put you all to sleep here. Over at Reddit, there is a transgender user who posted hundreds of pornographic drawings of child characters under the age of 10. And a lot of people complained and criticized him. So those moderators at Reddit basically banned the critics. Now, you think about that. The trans user who posted these pornographic drawings of children is allowed to stay, but those who criticized him and said this is really tacky, they're gone. Another Reddit moderator is under fire for inviting minors to their home for hormone shots behind the parents' backs. And this is another transgender who's over there as well. Over in Tennessee, they have become, the third state requiring student athletes to compete based on their biological sex. So sanity is starting to break out there. Over in South Dakota, they're trying to pass a bill banning biological males from women's sports, but Governor Kristi Noem keeps trying to block it. She issued what was called a style-informed veto. They've passed it again. They're sending it back to her desk as well. So the fury is definitely building. I ran this next story past Claire, and her reaction was colorful, if you will. Over at the University of Oxford, they're considering scrapping sheet music for being too colonial after staff raised concerns about music curriculum's complicity in white supremacy. So that's it. Now, I have a news flash for the University of Oxford. There is sheet music in all kinds of musical traditions. There's Indian sheet music for people who like to play sitar and sarod. But yes, the sheet music we're all familiar with is European. It's printed in black ink on white paper. So anyway, that's it. Literally, the University of Oxford is going to drop sheet music. Well, what are they going to do? Surgically implant MIDI interfaces into the back of the skulls of all the musicians and singers? I mean, it's ridiculous here. All right, Mark Morano, who publishes The Climate Depot, has come out with a new book, Green Fraud, Why the Green New Deal is Even Worse Than You Think. And it explains why the Green New Deal is just the red communist old deal with new packaging. The book went to number 2 on Amazon's list of books under environment since its release on March 23rd. It is so informative that the far left is now pressuring Amazon to remove it and stop selling it. Somebody sent in an email saying that whole thing about bat through an unknown creature to man, that unknown creature was man, bear, pig. All right, we're going to open the phone lines now. We'll be back after these few words.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen plan to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through HealthyWorldStore.com.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, putting America first, second, and third. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show, hour number 2, and we're going to open up the phone lines right now, area code 512-248-8252, and we're going to start with Joe in Nome. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Wow. Numero uno. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you fine, and you're on the air.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy?
Yes.
Okay. I think it was Friday or maybe Thursday. You mentioned about the Earth bobbing up and down across the galactic equator.
Well, the whole solar system does.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
The sun, yeah, right. Anyway, so this Sagittarius dwarf galaxy might be where the solar system originated. The infrared survey of the Milky Way galaxy revealed that it's in the process of devouring a much more ancient dwarf galaxy called the Sagittarius galaxy.
Yes.
And yeah, going back to religion is just an old science I remember dimly. The Mayans had fixed a date, 2012, and apparently, it seems, that corresponded with us crossing the Milky Way equator.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any theory as to why we're bobbing up and down across the galactic equator?
Well, it's not that we're the only system that's doing that. Pretty much all of them are, but you have this, this barred spiral galaxy we call the Milky Way, and if you look at this, at all of the stars that are just slightly out of the plane, they do tend to bob up and down. There's nothing unique about it in terms of our solar system, and it is thought that when we go through that much more densely occupied galactic plane, that's when a lot more debris gets dislodged, if you will, from the Oort cloud and sent on into the inner solar system as comets and various other things.
Yeah, I was talking about that back in 2011. Now, I wasn't talking about it to you. That 2011 is about where I first learned of your program.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did mention that I tuned you in on that TuneIn app, which was the only way that I could get any decent news out here in Nome.
Okay.
But it was spotty. But anyway, yeah, back in 2011, 2012, my science was pretty much ridiculed. But my theory is that we are, the reason we're bobbing up and down is because that's because we're a remnant of the Sagittarius galaxy, which is being swallowed. Because it's
things run into each other all the time. I mean, if you look at the Andromeda galaxy, which by the way is the furthest object you can see with the naked eye, way off in the future, billions of years, the Andromeda galaxy and the Milky Way are going to collide, and there's probably going to be a lot of interesting things happen when that happens.
Yeah, well, we'll see who's the bigger bully on the block there. But yeah, this dwarf galaxy that I consider myself a part of
okay,
would explain a lot of the perturbations, the bobbing up and down.
Well, like I said, that's a common behavior of all of the systems near the galactic plane, and nobody's really sure exactly where that plane is. But there are indications that the solar system goes up and down and through that galactic plane, and when it goes through the galactic plane, it does increase the number of objects that are coming into the inner solar system. Okay.
Did you get that information from that view zone?
No.
Well, that's where I first got that information. I did notice that you referred to view zone on one of your stories, and they printed a story once way back. Probably at least 15 years ago. It was called The Never Ending Story.
Mm-hmm.
And it talked about ancient hieroglyphs worldwide that harken back to ancient Hebrew script.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that theory, but there are definitely much older civilizations with hieroglyphs that predate Judea, Göbekli Tepe being one of them. Anyway, Joe, I need to let you go. The phone lines are loading up here, and I'd like to switch to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Your intelligence never ceases to amaze me. You know about MIDI.
Yeah. Well, we live with MIDI here.
It makes sense, though, Claire.
Say again?
Yeah. I remember the first time I used it was probably about 30 some odd years ago on a 24-track 2-inch tape for syncing. You put down a MIDI sync track.
Yeah.
Right. So you'd have a spare track, and all it would be was this digital information to sync up like other things, keyboards, whatnot, in time to make sure that it stayed in tempo.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I have a couple of little COVID anecdotes. The first one is there was an outbreak not far from where I am, an outbreak, right, at this pizza place. And what had happened is, like, one of the kids had a cold, right?
Yes.
Got tested, and, of course, tested positive for COVID. They come in and they test everybody, and then they put it in the news as as an outbreak. There's an outbreak. Yeah, look at the keyboard. So, a few other people tested positive, but they weren't even sick.
Yeah, there's
right?
a lot of
course,
false positives in those tests.
Oh, yeah. They have them cycled right up, right? Anyway, so those are cases, right? And until they test negative, then they're still unresolved cases, and they add up. And then there was another one where the place where I work, the owner's daughter's girlfriend, her kidneys are in bad shape, so she's on the list, right, for kidney transplant. Anyways, a couple of weeks ago, she went in the day before her scheduled surgery, and she tested positive, and then she tested negative. So they held off the surgery for 2 weeks because she's COVID. She has COVID-19, which she didn't. She didn't feel sick whatsoever. So 2 weeks go by, and this was last Wednesday. She goes in for another test, and she tested positive. And the doctor said, "Don't worry about it. Come in tomorrow." So they even know it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Yep. Got to watch your language. FCC's looking for a reason to shut us down.
Yeah, I know. They're probably looking for a reason to shut me down. Anyway, after what I just said, and I don't mean swearing, so even the doctors, they even know, but they can't say anything, especially in this country, in Canada, because they will pull your license for talking out, for speaking out against this sort of thing, right?
Yes.
Anyway, that's all I have for you, Mike. You have a good one. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to go to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, with all this garbage that the Congress and Biden's executive orders are trying to push, this is where states' rights come into being. And states have equal rights to the federal government.
Yes.
We thank God for that part of the Constitution. What has to happen is a lot of these governors have to stand up and say, look, you can pass anything you want. We're not going to obey it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you try messing with it, if you try, like I heard that they want to get some people in Congress, they want to drive them out and stuff, we're just going to not pay our federal taxes. All that. Just go back in the state coffers. It's not going to go to the it's not going to go to the federal government. Period. You're not going to do this. We're going to have our own, laws as far as selling guns goes, and we're going to have our own laws as far as what we do about COVID. And and as far as any kind of lockdowns or no lockdowns, you're not in charge. You're not going to do this. There's no way you're going to get away with this. They have to make that clear to them, and the local governments have to too, and the people as a whole. This is how should I say this? This is dictatorial.
Yes.
What's this? I don't know where some of these, like a guy like Cruz, he's pretty outspoken lately, but he has to come out and be more outspoken. He's got to put it right to them. Because you idiots want to start a civil war, or you want to start secession from this country, which I think is a very good possibility.
I agree.
Go right ahead and push it. I think the majority of states would join Texas in seceding from the United States if this happened. They would form their own United States and maybe have our own constitution. And as far as going the way of Russia, the old Soviet Union,
yes,
I tend to agree. We're very close to it. Problem is, what's going to happen as that happens? Is like a wounded beast? Are we going to just strike out and possibly destroy the planet through nuclear warfare, or would they just fall? And who would pick up the pieces? Would we have our own Putin that could save this country finally after that would happen? I don't know. I hope so,
Mm-hmm.
Because this just can't go on. Who does Biden think? This old, decrepit, demented fool who stole the election, or was the recipient of a stolen election, and he's going to push stuff like this? He said, I don't know. In his deluded mind, he probably thinks he's popular with the American people, which, of course, he's not.
No.
He probably believes he really 80-something million votes, which he certainly did not. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
He lost that election in a landslide.
Yes.
And by the way, these two clowns in Georgia are also in there fraudulently.
Yes.
They didn't win that election. It was another fraud. And that's why unfortunately, the stuff that Georgia's come up with now is too little too late. They should have done this before. We wouldn't have
I've got to be honest here. I wish the Republicans had fought as hard to back Donald Trump as they are fighting now to secure our elections.
Right. And that's another thing, Mike. If they try to push this fraudulent election bill of theirs, this federal election bill, first of all, it's totally unconstitutional. Most likely it would be thrown out by the courts. However, it shouldn't even be allowed. Again, the decent states in this country, the constitutional abiding states, should make it very clear, I guess they're mostly red states, that if you try to pull this, we will not obey. We will hold elections the way we see fit. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Both federal and elections. You will not do this. We will refuse. We will not listen. That has to happen, Mike. Otherwise, these clowns are going to turn this country into a dictatorship before it winds up imploding. All right?
Yes.
They're going to do a dictatorship first. Now I heard that they want to try to push this bill, like a COVID pass bill with the vaccine.
Yeah, vaccine passport.
No. Now already certain states are saying they wouldn't allow it. But still, just the gall of these people. Who do these people think they are? Okay, they can't even secure the border. Well, it's not they can't secure the border. They don't
want to.
Exactly. They want turmoil. They want to bring an end to this country.
They want a permanent stream of Democratic voters.
I don't even know if it's that. I think they just want an end to this country, period.
Well, the globalists certainly do.
Yeah, and that's who's pulling the strings. It's the globalists. That's the UN. The UN is pulling the strings on this. That's who run this puppet, this imposter. It is the UN. Okay, and that's who people like Fauci work for, and Gates, of course. Gates is, of course, a not only globalist, he's a eugenicist.
Yes.
He basically wants to pretty much end the human population. All right.
Well, he definitely wants to trim it back.
That's for sure. That's for sure. I think they really do want to replace us with robots. I'm watching more lately at night. Sometimes I have nothing else to do. I'll watch one of their movies there on and there's so much of this stuff. Robots taking over, part robots taking over, aliens taking over. I'm not talking about aliens from other countries. I'm talking about from the other planets. I mean, these people are crazy, and they're dangerous, and they must be stopped. Okay?
Yes.
And people are learning. You got to start counting on the states now to not only protect us, but we got to protect ourselves, along with the states, along with the counties. The sheriff is very important these days. It's just, we just have to be prepared, because these scumbags hate us. They hate the American people.
Mm-hmm.
They hate basically most of the people. It's a few billionaire, elitists that basically think they're better than anybody else. And I'm sorry, I know this doesn't go along with some of the callers here and all that. They say this is socialist, but I definitely believe we need to start taking away some of these clowns' money, okay, and possessions, because they have too much and they use it as a weapon. It's weaponized wealth. That's what they use. It's a prime example now, buying all that property up. If I was elected president right now, or if I have a governor of one of those states who owns that land, I'd confiscate it right now. I'd confiscate that land. He had no business buying it. I'd use anti-monopoly laws, whatever I had to use, antitrust, but I'd confiscate it. If nothing else, I'd confiscate it anyway and lock his ass up, where he should have been a long time ago. and put them on trial for crimes against humanity. Because we're letting these billionaires go way too far, Mike. Way too far. If you want to call that socialism, well, guess what? It is socialism. Okay, it's nationalist socialism, though. It's not global socialism. Okay, by nationalist I mean putting America first. Okay?
Yes.
Get it confused with the the 1930s. All right, Mike. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, thanks an awful lot. Here, we're almost to the end of this segment here. The phone lines are open. We have open lines right now, area code 512-248-8252, and we're going to go to Bruce in Texas. And Bruce, I may have to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Hey, Mike. Hey, Mike. How about them legal aliens? Y'all been bring time in. Yeah, I think Biden, he ought to just send them back to Mexico and send them back to North Dakota. What do you think about that?
I don't think Mexico would let them come back in. When you look at all the gang members and rapists and child molesters that are coming, Mexico's glad to be rid of them.
Yeah, remember the mayor of Tijuana had a Make Mexico Great Again hat?
Yes.
That was great. Yeah. Hey, on the F-35, before I get to Kamala, the F-35 and the F-22, well, in November of 2020, China announced that they have a radar technology that they're developing to be fielded that can detect stuff.
Yes.
So I kind of hope maybe this whole stealth thing goes by the wayside and they can design sexy jets like they did back in the 50s and 60s. The radar is a millimeter wavelength radar.
Yes.
And they can actually use it to target missiles to intercept stealth fighters. So eventually, all technology gets broken down and defeated. So we have that. I was flipping through the channels. I don't do it too often, but I came up on ABC and they had some kind of a puff piece, like a PR piece on.
Okay, Bruce. Bruce.
Okay, go ahead.
I got to put you on hold. Don't hang up. I'm going to come right back to you after this commercial. Phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. We'll be right back.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry, because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it?
a voice of truth in a sea of lies, do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way. Can't draw no.
And welcome back to our show here. And once again, it's time for me to put on my official RBN knee pads and get down on my knees and beg you for more continued support of Republic Broadcasting Network. Unfortunately, once I'm down on my knees, it takes a chain hoist to get me back up again, so I'm going to remain in this semi-comfortable chair. But the fact of the matter is that we do need your continued help, and first of all, we do need to thank and recognize those who have been sending in donations to support our good work. And a reminder that the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And if you mail in a donation of $100 or more, you get your choice of either an official RBN t-shirt, and we will need a return address and your t-shirt size, or if you choose, you can get an RBN coffee mug. And again, we need your return address to get that to you. If you send in $115, I have been told you will actually get both. And don't forget, the front sight firearm deal is still out there. So we're talking with Bruce in Texas, and Bruce, just sort of pick up where you left off.
Yeah, I saw a special on ABC, and we know how the media and the Democrats are tied together to the hip. I believe it was a rebroadcast, something that was produced for Black History Month, and it was Black Women in Politics. It was a total puff piece, a PR, slickly produced sales job, and it had Michelle Obama talking about how great it is that we have Black women coming into politics and taking over, and Kamala Harris was featured. I mean, this is just total sales job. And Stacey Abrams followed up right afterwards, and that's all I could take. I changed the channel. But, you know, we have to face up. The election was stolen, and they couldn't push through who they wanted, so they got Biden, who was maybe halfway sellable, you know, because Kamala Harris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think she even won a single delegate, and she was booted out pretty quickly out of the
during the primaries, yeah, she got something like 2%.
Right. And Stacey Abrams, she lost her gubernatorial re-election by 40,000 votes. And so we're going to have a government that's going to be forced upon us that the people did not vote for these people.
Mm-hmm.
And any talk about constitutionality of any laws they might pass, like the one on the voting rights, the Voting Fraud Act that they're passing, what's the Supreme Court going to do? Look what they did with the election. They're going to just say, yo, no standing. We don't want to hear it. It's pretty damn dark. And as far as the analogy to Russia, yeah, I can see that we have a lot of assets that can break us apart, like the Jewish oligarchs did in the 1990s. But they had a population that could bounce back. They had a lot of high intellect people there in Russia. They had Europeans and Asian descent. But here, to me, it's looking more like a South African model.
Yes.
Yeah, and especially with the confiscation of farmland, just about, you know, and the blatant discrimination against the people who actually built and run this country. So I'm not trying to black pill everybody, but I just like to look at facts the way they are. And I don't know what the solution is. We have to come up with one quick because they're pushing that balls to the wall. And I don't know what you had to say to that, but that's what I wanted to say.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the phone call. All of the phone lines are open right now. Area code 512-248-8252. And getting on back to a little bit of news. Let's see. Here we are. This next story is kind of cool. There's a private company located in China that has built a gigantic 3D printer that is able to print full-size houses, and it works fast enough where they built 10 of them in just one day. Now, this is the Winsun Company. It used a system of 4 10-meter wide by 6.6 meter high printers with multi-directional sprays to create the houses. Now, they're not palatial, they're not mansions, but still in all, especially when you're dealing with the homelessness in this country, I think that would be a really good idea. And even better, construction waste and cement was used to build the walls layer by layer. And they're saying that this is going to use up a lot less of raw materials and be less damaging to the environment. This is according to Ma Yihe, the inventor of the printers. And apparently this individual has been designing 3D printers for 12 years and believes his process to be both environmentally friendly and cost-effective. It's very, very impressive to see. Like I said, they're small houses, but 10 in one day. That is really very good. Okay, a little bit of word from the world of computers here. This is a story that came out of, excuse me just a second here, irishtimes.com, where it's been discovered by the Trinity College. Oh, we got to take another break for commercials. All right, we'll come back to this story in a minute. Meanwhile, the phone lines are open, 512-248-8252. Call on in. Let's have some fun. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the energy cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an energy cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an energy cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Extendivite 7-herb formulation is approved to help maintain cardiovascular health and help lower blood lipid levels in adults. Extendivite is made from hawthorn, garlic, valerian, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, and milk thistle. The herbs in Extendivite have been chosen for their ability to help with overall health. Many people have reported improved energy and stamina in just a few months. If you think you could feel just a little bit better, then Extendivite may just be for you. Extendivite is an all-natural supplement. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Born in the city with a silver spoon, great-grandson of the oil tycoon, raised by wolves, thinks he owns the moon, socialist banker to the one-world goons, Davy Rockefeller, chairman of the CFR.
Okay, welcome back to our show here. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. I don't know, maybe people are out getting ready for the Easter holiday, which is coming up this week, or they're getting ready for Passover. So we're going to go back and do some news here. We started this story before the commercial break. The Trinity College Dublin research basically has identified privacy issues about smartphones. And apparently there's virtually no difference between Apple and Google, where they're collecting certain data and sending that data out every 4.5 minutes. Now, the study was published by Professor Doug Leith at the Trinity's Connect Center and claims iPhones offered no greater privacy than Google devices. Now, you're probably aware that iPhone has recently gone on an advertising campaign about how there's a new feature where you can control what information is going on out to various advertisers. But apparently the iPhone itself is collecting information and it's going somewhere every 4.5 minutes. Same thing with the Google phone. Okay. Another story. This one is coming on out from Zero Hedge. Instagram is sharing 79% of your personal data with third parties. In other words, they're mining the data that you have in your Instagram feed and sending it to, well, more than likely advertising and marketing companies. And Claire was just commenting the other day that, she was looking on, her smartphone at jewelry, and the next thing you know, she's getting all these ads for jewelry in her email, and it really is. It's a huge thing. There is a bug in it, though, because when I buy something online, I get ads for that same item for at least a week afterwards. What do they think? I'm going to buy another one? How many weed whackers can one guy use is really what it comes down to. Apple issued a security patch for all their supported phones and watches and tablets last Friday, and they're saying you should install it immediately because they discovered a flaw that allows for the creation of maliciously crafted web content, which may lead to universal cross-site scripting. And Apple has heard the code snafu may have already been actively exploited. So if you have one of those Apple devices, make sure that you upgrade to the patch that came out on Friday. We already did. I tend to put those things in when they come on out. Okay, now since Joe Biden and the Democrats are refusing to rein in big tech, the states are starting to say it's their job to do it. Up in New York, State Senator Michael Gianaris was basically ecstatic when Amazon named Long Island City in 2018 frontrunner for the new headquarters. This is a project that would create 25,000 jobs and bring in $2.5 billion in construction spending to his district. But his his support faded when he learned that state and city leaders had promised one of the world's richest companies tax breaks worth $3 billion in secretive negotiations. And this led to a public backlash, which led Amazon to cancel the deal altogether. These companies are so rich and so powerful, and again, they're discovering that they're not paying taxes on all that money that they're bringing on in. Alrighty, astronomers have discovered what they call an elusive Goldilocks black hole. It's 55,000 times the mass of our sun and could help to explain how black holes form. And they discovered this black hole after a gamma ray burst. And they're starting to think that gamma ray bursts may in fact be a signature of the creation of a black hole, that final collapse into the inside of the event horizon, giving off a huge, huge blast of gamma rays, which would just cook any remaining planets that were still in orbit around the remains of that sun. Story coming on out of Zero Hedge is sounding a warning that China and Russia are winning the new space race. Well, it's not so much that they're making great strides, which they are. It's the fact that under liberalism, NASA, during the Obama administration and the Clinton administration, was turned away from focusing on space exploration and technology development, and they were used as a rubber stamp for the climate agenda. Set up a satellite to prove humans are warming the planet and that kind of thing. So NASA's been kind of sitting still while China and Russia are closing in from behind. That, of course, is changing. NASA is once again getting on out there, as we can see from Perseverance on Mars, and they're getting ready to fly that Ingenuity helicopter. And the private space companies are really doing good work, especially SpaceX. And it actually feels good. As somebody who was growing up during the space race of the 60s, I'm really enjoying the fact that we're out there doing it again. Pardon me. Phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to go back and find some other news now. I was watching over on the TV feed here, and in their opening statement in the Derek Chauvin case, the defense attorneys relied on the autopsy report, which said that George Floyd was just totally loaded up on fentanyl. And so I think that might be the reasonable doubt that's going to be happening there as well. Meanwhile, and we reported this last week, the judges on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals have ruled gun owners have no right to carry openly. And because it's very hard to get a permit to carry concealed, they have effectively declared the Second Amendment is null and void outside of your own home. A former vice president and chief science officer for Pfizer, Dr. Michael Yeadon, and we've heard that name before, basically saying that the drive to inject the largest possible portion of the population with experimental vaccines is madness. It's a crime against humanity and may have the intention of massive scale depopulation. And it's certainly, I wouldn't put it past them here. This is a story that we need to pay attention to. Over in Montana, they have been having an election audit. Now, the area where they're having this audit is a predominantly left-leaning part of the state. But they did an audit of the ballots, and they found numerous abnormalities, overcounting, outright fraud, and they're saying that it was large enough to swing the election from Donald Trump to Joe Biden. All right. Okay, let's see. Are illegal aliens receiving COVID-19 relief checks? Yeah, apparently they are. There are a lot of legal American citizens who, because of how much money they earn, won't be getting those checks. But those illegal immigrants, yeah, they step over the border to get a free relief check. They do not get tested for COVID-19 or, for that matter, for anything else as well. Right. And they're still talking about the vaccine passports. Apparently, this is going to be a new government-issued document. Now, when Claire and I got our shots, we got a little tiny card that said, yes, they got their shots. And in theory, when the passports come on out, we should be able to do something with that. Interesting little article. This came out of Patriot Rising saying that freedom always seems to be the problem for the government. And it says over and over, authoritarians, overhype a crisis to scare the daylights out of the public and propose solutions that have two things in common. They demand more of our freedoms, and they never work. It's always all pain, no gain, and one has to wonder how many repetitions of this rinse and repeat is it going to take before the American people say, okay, enough. This has really gone on far enough. We already talked about Biden is saying attempts to stop election fraud are un-American. Okay. Pardon me. A little bit of an embarrassment for Anthony Fauci, not directly, but over in Maryland, a Prince George's County man is under investigation after claiming he worked with Dr. Anthony Fauci's team to develop the COVID-19 vaccine as part of an effort to get dates and con women into giving him money. So a little more skepticism would be out there. We already talked about Governor Noem's attempt to interfere with the women's sports bill. The Chicago Teachers Union is now saying there's no agreement to return to high school classrooms, and they're demanding the city return to negotiations. Now, this must be a little bit frustrating because it did sound like there was a deal in place, and now all of a sudden the teachers union is saying no, they're resisting the next round of reopenings, and they want the city to return to the negotiating table or face new delays. Down in Australia, at an Australian school, the boys have all been forced to apologize to all the girls on behalf of their gender. This is a school in Victoria, Australia, and the boys were forced to stand up during an assembly and mass apologize to the girls simply for being boys. I mean, this kind of brainwashing is just really getting out of control. Okay, we have a caller on the line. Tom in Florida, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, I'll make it real brief. You won your last caller last week. He's talking about you should turn your show into a science show. Go ahead. I don't care. We'll talk science Wednesday. I want to talk about movie endings on Wednesday maybe.
Okay.
But listen, Mike, I just want to know, you heard about, and he said, I never talked about different cultures like he said. But yeah, there was a 12-year-old girl that got murdered in our high school.
Yes.
If that would have been reversed, you know how that would have went down.
Yes.
Mike. Am I not lying?
Nope, you're not lying.
So all these girls are getting murdered and all this other criminal activities that happen, Chicago and all that. And this guy's telling me we haven't heard from this guy in months, and he's like throwing me under the bus because I call in once in a while and I try to give perspective and I try to give different scenarios of what's going on in the country. However, I won't even bring up the one subject because it's taboo, I guess, for right now. But I'll tell you this, Mike. Watching bumbling Biden do his press conference with the mask on, the black mask, and then when he's in the White House and walking around and all these people around him, he don't wear the mask. This is all a setup.
Yes.
This whole thing is run by Zog. They use optics against white people in this country. That's all I see is optics. Bad optics. White man, bad man. Orange man, bad man. But bumbling Biden is complacent. He's culpable of our takedown of this country, the government and everything. He's the guy's an idiot in my book, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And the caller that called you from Jersey never wants to say anything bad. All we heard from years from that guy was bashing the Trump this, Trump that. Well, I was wondering, does he have buyer's remorse? He said he don't vote. Well, if you don't vote, millions of men went to war for you to vote. So that's when you should be doing your civic duty and voting. Not saying, well, I'm not going to like. No, you vote. That's how I look at it, Mike. Too many millions of men went on the battlefield and gave their lives a sacrifice, everything, for you to have the right to vote. So that's how I look at that scenario. Now, going back to another thing, Mike, on Wednesday, you can do every Wednesday a science show?
No, I think I'm just going to try and find more science stories to report on every day. There weren't as many today as I would have preferred. I mean, we already talked about Perseverance, and they're getting ready to fly that Ingenuity helicopter, probably within the next 2 weeks.
Well, Mike, I just got to tell you, a movie I watched the other day? I was wondering if you remember that movie, Omega Man with Charlton Heston.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Man, what a movie that was, And, Mike, I tell you, this whole thing with this COVID, this was all set up. They were setting this up years ago. Bill Gates and all these criminals. This was a major setup. This was a major setup, and they did it at the right time because, remember, Mike, this is all about optics. The whole thing is optics and,
yes.
and putting everybody in delusion. It's just terrible with how powerful the leftist communist media Marxist is. It's unbelievable to me. But, that's what we're dealing with, so we'll see what happens here in the next year or so. I heard they're going to primary that Murkowski in Alaska, so that's a good thing. Get that creep out of there and all these rhinos, because this country's full of rhinos. I mean, I don't know what their objective is other than to wipe out Northern white European culture. And like you said, Michael, one of your shows, they're tearing our monuments down for what? Who's giving these people the right to tear our monuments down when they're in the minority, we're in the majority? Who?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Well, the reason behind that is simple. They want to raise a generation unaware of the history of our country and therefore incapable of understanding the direction it's being taken.
Well, Mike, like I told you about 2 weeks ago, my daughter told me, she's still in high school. She told me that if I'm an old guy to have a daughter that age, she told me, okay, that she got more taught about the Holocaust than she did about American history.
Yeah.
About George Washington, John Adams. She knows more about the Holocaust than she knows about our own revolutionary history as a free republic. My daughter didn't even know this country was a free republic, founded as a free republic. She thought it was a democracy. I mean, Mike, look what we're facing.
I know.
It's horrific, man. I mean, I don't know. I hope the rest of the week that's what we talk about is our Constitution, how it's being brutalized.
I'm waiting for somebody to stand up and say the Constitution is a symbol of white supremacy and colonialism and has to be gotten rid of.
Well, that's going to happen, Mike, because they're already talking about reparations in Chicago and Oakland. They're giving reparations, man. Mike, the reparations alone part, we had nothing to do with slavery. And the first slaves in the United States were not black. They were Irish. Who's kidding who?
My ancestors weren't slaveholders. In fact, my ancestors ran a station on the Underground Railroad. Do I get a discount?
There you go. That's what I'm saying, Mike. So, this whole thing is a big cabal. It's run by the cabal. And so basically all I got to say, I know you got probably another caller or something.
I think not at the moment.
Our country's leading to a disaster. Okay, well, I think our country's leading into an all-out disaster.
I agree.
You already know what's going on with Bumble and Biden at the border. And
I agree.
One more thing, do these people that come in this country get a COVID shot? All these kids and everybody?
No, they're not getting a COVID shot. They're not even being tested for COVID. We have no idea what communicable diseases are being brought into this country right now.
Well, that's what I understand. They're telling all the white people, go get COVID vaccine so you can end up dead. But all these illegals, they don't have to take a shot, and they got tuberculosis and hepatitis and every other damn thing.
And now we have to worry about Ebola. All right, well, listen, Tom, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here's a testimonial from Amazon.com. I am only 40, but I have put my body through hell working in manufacturing for 20 years. I recently started to notice a buzzing feeling along with a stuttering sensation with my heart. I had a full cardio stress done, which I passed. I decided to try Extendivite after getting the jingle stuck in my head. Halfway through the bottle, I really did notice a difference. After getting home from work, I would just sit in a chair for a few hours feeling like crap, and this stuff reduced that feeling along with heart discomfort to almost nothing. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hey gang, Patrick Slattery here with an important message that is pertinent to anyone who shops for groceries, eats food, or just has an inquisitive mind like myself. What I'm about to introduce you to is a segment of our food culture that has been kept so low profile to the American public that virtually no one is aware of how dominant it is on our refrigerator and cupboard shelves. What I'm talking about is the kosher certification industry and the new app, Koshertified, that delivers a comprehensive education on all aspects regarding this little-known practice. After reviewing this app, I found that it is useful for practically anyone who purchases food, regardless of their religious faith or identity. Its database of products not kosher certified is a win-win convenience for all food-conscious people. So why not check out the kosherquestion.com or click on the link at nationalbugle.com and see how modifying your grocery shopping with the Koshertified app can make a huge difference for your future.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
Welcome back to our show, last segment of our program today, and Facebook has a new set of terms of service where any Facebook users who disagree with the official government statistics about COVID or influenza will be banned. And so, Facebook has basically become the U.S. government's Ministry of Truth. And the other social media giants can be presumed to follow suit. So if what you post isn't what the government wants to hear about, well, then you're going to lose your Facebook account. Okay, now let's see. Apparently, Chris Wallace got stonewalled by Jem Psaki. He was basically out there saying that the Biden administration right now is being less transparent than the Trump administration, and Jem Psaki was out there saying, "No, you're wrong." But the story now is that some new information about that the miners surging across our southern borders has been made public, and the Republicans are basically chiding the Biden-Harris administration. For the sheer flood of people coming on over that border. Okay, so let's see. I think I mentioned this before. The CDC will extend the national eviction ban through June 30th. So it'll be the 1st of July when things are going to get really ugly. And like I said, they could extend it again, but it doesn't solve the problem. It really does not solve the problem at all. Right. Okay, this is a story that came on out of Your Destination Now. A white male cop and a black female cop harass and threaten to beat a 5-year-old boy. School officials stood by and did nothing. It was all captured on the body camera system. But yeah, we need to train the police on how to de-escalate a situation and how to interact with the public in a non-threatening way. Now, this gets back to the George Floyd case here, where the prosecutors are saying that Derek Chauvin murdered him, and the defense is saying, well, he had so much fentanyl in his body, he was dying anyway, so how do you charge somebody for murdering somebody who was going to be dead anyway in the next hour or so? And again, I don't agree with what Derek did to George Floyd, but on the other hand, we don't really see a lot of de-escalation going on in terms of the police. They seem to be they seem to be trained to be more and more confrontational. And that, I think, is definitely not going to be helping to stabilize our society. All righty. There's the music. Time for us to call it a day here. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. And I think Steve Elkins is going to be sharing the mic with him tonight, this being Monday. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate, and we'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.